Williams. I'm the author and founder of Hiking My Feelings. We are a nonprofit organization that works with Sawyer to bring great content and conversations via a podcast called Wellness in the Wilderness. So I am thrilled to be moderating this panel with these epic legends today. First of all, before I do introductions and we get into the panel, who here is nervous? Travis is nervous. Barry's nervous. All right, this is a kind of heavy conversation, right? Like people over profits. We're all here to try to score deals and make money and make the world a better place. So while we talk with these folks today, we have an international bench of experience ranging from people that are just getting started, doing work where we're prioritizing and centering people over profits, all the way to Sean here at the end, who has like some epic results that will translate well for anybody here that's working in this space full time and looking to make some changes. So to get us grounded here, I just want everybody to take a quick deep breath. We all traveled from wherever. Some of us are still getting adjusted to the altitude. If you're already drinking beer, have one and then see how it feels. And just take some deep breaths. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time out of your work schedule, out of your busy days, and out of your time here at the show. We are thrilled to have you. So let's start with Gabbacia Moreno. Gabbacia is a Sawyer ambassador and the executive director of the Outdoorist Oath, which is a nonprofit organization focusing on the planet, inclusion, and adventure. And Gabbacia is also a first-generation Mexican-American. She's a multidisciplinary creator and consultant, and you can catch her hiking, backpacking, wildflower chasing, tracking, hunting, and fly fishing. So give it up for Gabbacia. We also have next to her is Zelzin Aketzalli. Zelzin is also a Sawyer ambassador, and she is the first person from Mexico to complete the Triple Crown of thru-hiking, which is amazing. Yes, give it up. Beyond this achievement, she's also an outdoor educator, teacher, and passionate about land advocacy and creating more accessible spaces. So we're happy to have you here as well. If you were here for the last panel, you already know Mr. Jahmicah Dawes. He is we have Jahmicah hailing from Stephenville? Nailed it, Stephenville, Texas. That's what happens when you try to read and not pronounce. Jahmicah is an angler, father, and entrepreneur. He's also the founder of the first Black-owned gear store, Slim Pickins Outfitters, and he is a leader in our industry for his community-centered approach to business. And last but certainly not least, we have Sean Kappauf. He is the founder of a nonprofit called One at a Time, and Sean has a deep passion for connecting people to the global water crisis. From corporate collaborations to government partnerships, Sean is skilled in bringing multiple parties together and to bring Sawyer filters to communities lacking clean drinking water. So I'm a big fan, yes. I'm a big fan of archetypes, so I'm just gonna rattle off what we got here. I consider Gabbacia a dot connector. Her organization is connecting the dots between planet, inclusion, and adventure, all of which is centering sustainability and people over profits. Zelzin is a literal trailblazer, and she's going to tell us a little bit about how she's doing that in Mexico. Jahmicah is our community leader, history maker, and we have Sean at the end, the clean water cowboy. So if you just needed like a visual for your mind of what we got going on up here. And then I'm sitting and I talk a lot, but fortunately I'm interviewing and not taking the stage. It's great. So I'd like to start with just a little bit of experience so we can kind of get to understand who's up here. Gabbacia, I would love to hear about the Outdoorist Oath and your work as a consultant.
Testing. Yay. Well, I've had the privilege of running small businesses for the past 16, maybe 17 years. And during that time, I got to experience kind of the shift from what used to be the traditional model of business to a more digital-based and just kind of got to see that evolution into the e-commerce. And with that, obviously, there's the big influence of social media and the kind of information that we got access to through the kind of now democratic media space, if we can name it that, for lack of a better word. And so through that work, I started, with the traditional business model, and then had a stab in the swimwear industry, trying to do what we thought was quote-unquote ethical retail, which is hard to do when you're not really making the bills. And so that was a big aha moment for me as a longtime marketer and storyteller to say, you know, how do we actually align value to the way that we try to make a living in this world, which is really challenging, right? And so that's a little bit of my background, like in a nutshell. And cut to the work that we're doing at the Outdoorist Oath today. Having the opportunity of starting an organization from scratch has been so cool because my entire life, my job has been trying to fix businesses, right? Or trying to find solutions to things that could have been set up in a sustainable way from day one, but because, as I'm sure many of y'all are business owners, that's really hard to do. And so for me to come into this role as executive director, it's been this beautiful joy and privilege to say, okay, we're not only creating tools that will be hopefully agents for positive change in the outdoors, but also we are setting up a place where people are gonna make a living. And so being able to lead with that from day one and having on-set support from corporate sponsors to do that has been just really powerful. And I sit here saying that with a lot of privilege and with also just this could not be the reality that it is today if it weren't obviously for my co-founders, Patagonia, Jose Gonzalez, and Teresa Baker. And they're, I don't know how many collective years of experience they are already bringing from just within and around the outdoors and at different intersections. So just wanted to share that, and kind of that's the perspective I'm coming into this conversation through.
And for Zelzin, I'd love to hear about your experience, what you're doing to build the connector trail, and where you're at with that project, the beginning stages.
Okay, can you repeat the last?
I'd love to hear more about the project that you're working on for the connector trail through Mexico.
Okay. So when I did the Triple Crown, the hiking, somebody know what is the Triple Crown, the hiking? A ver, how many hands? Okay, good job. So for the persons who don't know what is the Triple Crown, it's over 7,000 miles, crossing the biggest trails in the United States, the Pacific Crest Trail, the Continental Divide Trail, and the Appalachian Trail. So when I did that, I finished the Triple Crown in 2019. I was living in Mexico City, and that was like a different experience for me. I never see that in my life. And we in Mexico, we don't have like a established long trail distance. So for me it was incredible. Changed my life, my perspective to see the things totally. And so I decide when I finish the Triple Crown, do something different. Like, okay, I am the first Mexican to do this, but I want to do something for my community, you know? And I want more Mexicans and Latin persons live this experience because it's not easy for us coming to United States. So it started my mind in 2019 that. So when I hiked the Continental Divide Trail, I started in Mexico, in Chihuahua, and a connection from Chihuahua to the CDT in New Mexico, and that was how I started. So that was years the thinking, how am I going to do this? And then, long story short, passing so many years, when you try to do something that's not there, it's very difficult to trust. It's very difficult when the people don't know about that. But I really want to do this, so I don't know, I feel impassioned with thru hiking when I hiked my first long trail, the Pacific Crest Trail. And now after finishing the Triple Crown, I just decide I want to do this. And it's something that we're talking about how difficult sometimes is to survive to doing these kind of things. But I think the magic in this is passion. When you have your objectives clear and passion about what you want. No matter if you are sleeping in the sofa, or no matter if you sometimes not have food, but you just go in and follow your dreams. So for me, it's very, start this process, and then I have a little injury before the start hiking for make this long trail. So now, after 2 years, the injury, I just go back. I have 4 days. I hiking 800 miles in Utah, exploration, Haydock Trail. Somebody know about Haydock Trail?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good job. So I just finished the trail M15, and that was my welcome back. And now I am ready to do this. But like I said, it's not going to be easy. But when you have something and you have some objective and dreams, you can do it. But it's more, like I say, it's more about share about what you love. Like for me, through hiking is my passion and it's something I love, and I want to share with more Mexicans. But also, it's part to give something to my country, something that thank you. I did this Triple Crown, that was because my country training me for years. I survived in Mexico. I don't know how many people go into Mexico City, but I come in for very tough neighborhood, like a slum. So I survived to that. And like when people told me, hey, you're not scared about animals when you explore, about mountain lions or bears, I say no. I think I'm more scared for people sometimes. But this trail in Mexico, I want to bring health to my community, because for me it changed a lot of things before I start doing thru hike and after doing thru hike, and also bring hope many Indian communities in Mexico, because we know, it's something that is missing in the world is hope. So this is basic what we want to do, and this is going to be the first long trail in Mexico. And you're going to know more about this in some months more, but I am excited to share the first time in public with you guys right now. So.
I don't want to follow that. Can he come back to me? No, okay.
Jahmicah, I'd love to hear about your community-centered approach to business, and if you have a story of somebody in the community that's been impacted by your store being in town, I'd love to hear that.
Sure, yeah. Well, when we first opened Slim Pickins Outfitters, I did not know, it wasn't like intentionally like I want to be the first black-owned outdoor retailer. In fact, it was not only surprising, but really kind of like heartbreaking when I found that out, because I was just like, well, that can't be, because like I know that like the outdoors is more diverse, even than like it's kind of portrayed in popular media. So like that just doesn't make any sense. And then once we kind of like confirmed that was the case, I'll be honest, I was scared, because I was like, well, then there's probably a reason for that. So like, kind of almost like, how did I end up here? Yeah, like I have people ask all the time, like, if you were to do it again, would you do it? And I mean, I honestly, it's like no. But this is where we're at, and so like I say all that because like where the shop is at, it's a cowboy capital of the world, which I know it's a perfect place for an outdoor store, right? So like I wanted to create a space for community to gather and get educated about these things. One of the things we say is we want to learn about things from people who are passionate about those things. And those people do not have to be like ambassadors or, you know, like people that are like sponsored by brands. Those people are the community members. Something that we have found out is that like we have people that are passionate about the outdoors, but that usually go outside of Stephenville or even outside of Texas to really kind of pursue those passions or to really kind of get with community. And part of that is, I mean, you know, less than 5% of Texas land is public land, so a lot of that is access to those things. A lot of that is, I think, correcting the narrative of Black people and people of color in the outdoor space. I think a lot of that also is like bringing attention to still the lack of diversity within the outdoor industry. That's where I've seen still just majority white, majority male. And so like, because of that, because like our first audience, our first community wasn't just the Black community, it was just like, okay, can we have a place where people can feel safe, where people can be educated about it, and if we can build that community through connections with things that aren't outdoors. So like when you come in our shop, like we play vinyl records all the time. I've got a basset hound named Bill Murray he runs the shop. How do we make these connections there? Because when we start to build those connections there, we're eventually going to invite those people outside. And if they have trust in us from just the way that we've connected in other ways, well then like why wouldn't they want to trust us when we invite them outside? Not to go like, you know, scale of 14 or something like that. It's like, no, let's just go hang outside. And so like we've seen that, because again, still where my community is, it's not a diverse community. And because Texas is so big, one of the things we also say is we go to where the diversity is. So like we're committed to go and travel to these places and be involved in some of these initiatives and projects where we get to expose more young people of color to the options and opportunities of being in the outdoor industry. So like one of our main nonprofit partners, Black Outside, they're in San Antonio. That's a 4-hour drive one way. And so like actually when I leave here, I'm flying out there to partner with them on their Camp Founder Girls thing. And so like I'd probably say like the people that have inspired me, again, when we started this 2017, we were the first. Now 2023, we actually have one here for sure. Benji Williams over there, owner of Outlandish in Brooklyn. They've been open 4 months. And so like, yeah, something that we say is that like we kind of, I don't know, sometimes some dark humor, no pun intended, but we say like we went from extinct to endangered, but we're trajecting in the right direction. And something that we have said, and when Benji and I have had our talks, of like, I'm not trying to fit into the box because the box wasn't ever created for people like me or Benji. What we're trying to do is build a staircase where we can invite and include as many as possible on these steps, and we can help build these steps one by one and elevate collectively. And so like something that I want to do, and I hope that I'm doing, and Benji is validation of that, is that we do want to leave a trace. We do want to show that we were here, and that not only that we are here, that we're growing. Because I firmly believe, and again, if I had known that would be the first, would I have started? I just stick to that. Like, no, I wouldn't have. But something that I've seen is that there are some people here coming behind me that are already so much better at it than I am, and they're already connecting so many other people. And so like their existence is validation for me. So, yeah.
Thank you. And for Sean, I'd love to hear about your work with Vera Bradley and Sawyer and how you actually, like the numbers that we can see and the impact that actually comes when we put people over profit.
Yeah. I'm gonna stand because I can't sit still. Airplanes are the worst for me. I'm gonna just so real quick. Life is short, and it's the love that we give to others and the love that we receive from them that makes us rich. And that is something that I share often with our team, with those that we relate with, that while even a nonprofit makes profit, it's just how the money is funneled, right? We can get too focused on the money. and we lose sight of the heart of it. And the heart of it is us connecting together, getting to know each other. That's what matters most. The product is fine, and that's good, but sometimes we can lose sight of that. And for me, I sit in board meetings, and the board meetings are like, we're down this much. And honestly, I don't care. I literally don't care. This thing could just, it doesn't matter. Like, it does matter, but it doesn't matter. What matters is the relationships that we have, the people that we're connecting with, the people looking them in the eye, getting to know them. That's what matters. That's what makes life so good. That's what makes life so rich. And we can easily lose sight of that with the money stuff. And so for me, when it comes to how we work and what we've done over the past 10 years of distributing Sawyer filter kits around the world, sure, 40,000 families have gained access through clean drinking water through our organization. That's a humble brag. You didn't notice that. But it's families, not filters. It's families. It's people. It's children. That one child got access to clean drinking water and they no longer have to suffer. That's what keeps me going in this. It's not the money. The money is cool and it is important to get that thing done, but it's the people that we see. And as we come together and unite behind that motivation of love that we give, in return we receive so much more as well. And so I've always tried to find people like that have the same kind of idea, that want to partner with us in the work that we're doing. And this company, Vera Bradley, I don't know how they got a hold of me. I'm from Southern California, and Vera Bradley, as far as I know, does not exist. I'm not really into clothing and stuff, but I am like, the guy called me up, and he's like, you ever heard of us? I'm like, nope, no idea who you are. We make bags, floral ones. I'm like, that's awesome. And he's like, hey, we have a factory just outside of with 1,100 factory workers. And we found out that all the factory workers are sick of water. And we got a hold of you through another guy and another guy, and we were wondering if you could solve that. At the time, I didn't have anyone in Cambodia, but I have a whole team in Vietnam that covers the entire country. So we have it in Hanoi and Da Nang and down in Ho Chi Minh City. And so I just said, absolutely, that's easy, no problem. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know how we're gonna do this, but we'll figure it out. So we got a local team, all of our teams when it comes to distribution, and I'll say this in Latin America too, no gringo touches the filter. It's all done by local people. No one from here is going down there and saying, here you go. That doesn't happen. All locals, because they're the heroes. We work together, we build relationships with them, they're like family for us, but it's all local people going out and distributing it, building relationships with their neighbors, being able to love them in return, and then they follow up months on out to ensure that it's sustainable and that the filters are working. And we help incorporate that through other things, like we have a team of scientists that work with us, and we have a barcode on the filter, and we have an app, and they sit with the individuals and they ask them questions. Those questions they ask them are collected on an app, and that app goes into a system, and that system goes to a scientist, and the scientist is able to track it to see if the filter is still working, because lo and behold, 10 years ago, the first filters we distributed are still working today. And we know that through scientific data. We know that through evidence, which is why this company was intrigued. They're like, hey, these people, we're not just gonna give them some money and then like give them filters and maybe, yeah, who knows. No, this is actually gonna be sustainable for us. And it's not that expensive. But if anything, we just want to give our factory workers clean water. And so what we did is I went out to Indiana, never been there in my life. Pretty cool, kinda. More like cold. I was in Indiana, we did I talked about the global water crisis, how the #1 killer of children 5 and under is due to water-related illness. I talked about the solution that we have, the Sawyer filter, and I talk about how they get to be a part of it. So every person in that room wrote a love note, and a love note's a little sticker that we stick on the bucket, and they just write something like "you're loved," and the whole idea of that is to connect them somehow to that person who receives it. They may not know them, but that doesn't matter. The idea is that they're extending that love out, and the person who receives the filter reads it, it's in their language, and sees that they're loved, and hopefully something in that touches them too, which is important for us. We did that. We distributed the filters, all local people in Phnom Penh. The scientists came along. We did data analysis on diarrhea reduction rate, on the cost of money that they were spending on water a month, the cost of money that they were spending on antibiotics or antiparasitics, and also the amount of hours that they lost during work and then gained because of the filter. And what we noticed in the data is that there was about a 35% illness rate the past 2 weeks. The people in that factory that have been sick from their water, meaning they had diarrhea, they had skin rash, they had worms, they were vomiting, all those different things that you get from the water. They also spent a lot of money on their water a month, and they also spent a lot of money on anti-parasitic or antibacterial medicine. And what we noticed is that the diarrhea reduction went from within 1 month, the diarrhea reduction went from 35% to less than 2%. They saved, on average, about $72 with their cost of water and the medicine that they were buying, because they were no longer having to treat it because of the water filter that they gained. So they were able to put $72 back into their pocket, into something else, into something for their children or whatever it may be. And on top of that, we were able to prove and show to the factory work, to Vera Bradley, that over the course of this next year, we did a whole year study, that you have gained 2,000 man hours now because they're not missing it due to being sick. And they were like, wait a second. So when we help people, we get profit out of that? And I'm like, lo and behold, buddy. Who would have thought? So it's just a really cool thing for us to see, that is that this company, they weren't looking at their wallet, they came out altruistically, which is, it seems kind of foreign. And it was really cool for us to see that. And it was also cool to see that when you sow goodness back into the world, it comes back towards you as well. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that because we have a business or we have this idea, we really want to make it work, and so we end up sacrificing that over relationships. But again, it's the love that we give to others and the love that we receive that matters most. That's what makes us rich.
You want to moderate the rest of this, or?
Used stuff as a pastor in my past life, but I've kind of left that go. That's a whole other subject with my therapist.
All right. The concept of people over profits is pretty simple, right? Like, if you take care of your people, whether that's your employees or your customer, the profits always show up. And so for me, and I don't know if anybody here can relate, is anybody here a business owner? Like, you make the decisions, okay? And we got employees and decision makers, hands up. And then we got a bunch of people that don't have jobs. Like, what are you guys doing, not participating? Okay, great, awesome. So for me personally, like, the question I'm gonna ask comes after a story, because I gotta work in a story here. For me personally, I was, like, my great awakening, right, happened when I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And I was, like, crushing it in corporate communications. I was making 6 figures, I had fat benefits, unlimited time off, and everything was great, except I was sick and I was literally dying. And so for me, I had to take my personal experience and look like, I'm putting my job, which gives me my profits, my paycheck, over my health. So I was putting profits in my own life over me, the people. So when I decided to, like, switch that on its head, I was like, I've got a lot of skills, right? Like, I know how to communicate, I'm a good talker, I use words good, I write nice. How can I, thank you, very sensitive. How can I use these skills to make the world a better place? And I started thinking about putting myself first, and then just trusting that the money would come. And if it's true for me on a very individual, one human being kind of case, then we can all do this for ourselves individually. The ripple effect knows no end. We can take that into work. We can take that into our industries. So for me, I had to, like, wake up to this. Did you guys just, like, know that people should be over profits, or were you also brainwashed like me to believe that profits come first? Because we've got first-generation Mexican Americans, we've got people from Mexico. Like, I thought, like, I had to actually work to understand this. Is the same true for you? Go down the line.
Well, I mean, I feel like I've never made that much money where I am sacrificing myself for that much money. But I have sacrificed myself for not that much money, which is even more mind-boggling, right? Because you are there for the possibility until you realize there's a system, right, that is preventing you from achieving financial freedom or, you know, aspiring to retire or whatever it is. So I'll say in the past couple of years, and I've tried different things with life, but at the beginning of this year, I made a big decision to say, you know what, I'm gonna cut my income in half, and I'm gonna stop paying rent. I'm gonna move and live on the road, And so maybe I don't have the financial security that I had before, but I have a richer life because now I have forced myself to spend time outdoors because I'm camping almost full time. And that is prioritizing me. That's what prioritizing me has, and me and my family, my husband, you know, that's what it has looked like for me. But I feel like over the years, I've fallen into this cycle again because I am like, I love to work for a cause. And I love to help, and I love to support others in their journeys. And I'm passionate about that. And so, you know, still trying to figure out how to find that balance, but that's being in this world.
Okay, what was the question again?
Did you always know that people should go over profits, or did you have to work to understand that and then build your business in a different way?
Yes, just because, like, I was never really motivated by money, which is amazing that like I find myself on these panels, because like, I mean, I think like if you look at I think it's called a balance statement. I'm not really good at it. Like, it's, like that hasn't motivated me. Now that I'm married and I'm a father, like, I feel like I understand it a little bit better, but that still doesn't motivate me. And I'm not rich. My grandma's never been rich in money, but I'm rich in family. And she's said that since I've been young. And so I think that's just kind of like, it's just been, again, kind of like from elders in my family and my community, just kind of passed down. And it's just been instilled in me that like, I'm just, I don't know, money's not gonna make me rich. And that I think family, people are. And even when sometimes those people hurt you, I find that I'm healed by other people. So I'm not gonna like, you know, I'm not going to like kind of close myself off or seclude myself. Eat it when I need help. Who was it? Andrew was texting me last week. He's like, hey man, just checking in on you. How you doing? I was like, oh, honestly, I'm just kind of mentally struggling. But like, I was having a conversation with a person who just like, on me. So like, he wasn't asking me for money, right? Like, I think just like those relationships are the things that are keeping me going. And again, even when maybe some relationships, it's other relationships that lift me back up and keep me going. So, and just money's never done that.
I need one translate here because that was tough for me. Other thing, I learned English and hiking, so my English is for hiking. Yeah, so some words is very tough to understand. Oh, really? Okay, so now I understand what, for me, I always was important the people. I never see the money because I never had. When I was in Mexico, I never had. And I am an engineer. I studied that degree because I want money because I never had. But when I hiked my first long trail, money no was important. It's coming. It's important because it's the system, but it's not your objective. When you put the money like a your objective, I think anything is not flowing. You're not going with the flow. When you put the people or the things you love first, is when everything flows. And like Sean say, it's more about experience. When I finished the Triple Crown, I know, like I was the first Mexican to do this, and was asking me, many times why more Mexicans not do it. I have some knowledge that is more important than money. The knowledge, the experience we have is more important than money. To share that knowledge, they can change lives. They can change life in different moments. It's helped everything, you know. Now my project in Mexico, I decided to have help. Sawyer is one of the companies that help us. ReadyWise is one person that help us too. But it's when you need help. But when you need help, when you have these projects and you're looking for this help monetary, it's good to have help because, like I say, it's the system, but you don't see like that, like as your principal. Never. Like I say, I think when you do something, it's because you love it. And let me tell you something. I made my first business when I was 14 because I don't have money, so I was selling things on the street. And it's how I make my business. And then I have second business when I was 18. And I know about business, but when you have this kind of projects, like you love it, I feel like yes, maybe for that project it's not important the money, but you need to looking for the second thing is going to be your business to support that project. But for that project, for me, especially for Baja, for doing the trail in the first long trail in Mexico, for me it's more important what I'm going to give at the people, at my community, what I'm going to go back to Mexico. And because more the things I know is from USA, and thank you. Most people, they help me. When I was doing these long distance races, people from USA, I learned everything here because, like I say, we don't have this kind of systems, the trail systems in Mexico. So all these things I learned, I just want to go back to my country because when we live, when we die, we're not taking the money. We die and just die, you know? But it's more important for me share what is more valued. For me, more valued is knowledge, experience, and change. Maybe, I don't know, maybe when you do one through long distance trail, you feel like a superhero maybe. Or when you do one big mountain, climb a big mountain, I don't know, Everest, and you feel like you can change the world. But sometimes we need to remember that sometimes the world no one be safe, no? Like you sometimes think I can save the world, I can save the people, but sometimes the people don't want to be saved. And this is true. And when you understand that and you understand what is your purpose is when everything come in. But like I say, I don't think to first put it first in your mind, like I'm looking for the money to do this is no, I don't think it's going to work. Yeah, money is important for do these things, but this is not the first important thing. I think the first important thing, I love what Sean said, is people. Is the love that you reside. Right now, for me, after finishing the Triple Crown, I start teaching people to be self-sufficient. Like when I go into these hikes, I go for myself. But more to teach them, it's amazing how recite for other people the thank you. When they say me, thank you for, because I was scared for going for myself, or because I don't know what I do, I found one river crossing, or it's one avalanche, or I don't know what I do, I see one bird, things like that. Like for us it's normal, so more other people is normal, for other people it's not normal. Or when people just not feel good and they try to live one experience but they just not feel good mentally or physical. And when you bring this hope and this knowledge on people, it's very gratified when they say thank you. And this is something that when you really feel connection with other people, and it's very nice. But also it's nice to have the support, the different companies, they have the same values than you, because yeah, it's important to have some kind of support, but this is not the objective.
I learned the importance of putting people over profit because I used to work in a company that chose profit over people, and I didn't like that. And so yeah, I think when I ventured off into starting the nonprofit and eventually decided maybe I should go all in, that was the ethos. Is like I know what it was like to be a recipient of that. And I want to do as best as I freaking can to make sure we create an environment where that doesn't happen. And I'll tell you what, it's not easy, it's hard. Especially in those board meetings with those people. They're intense. And when I go, I don't care, I'll put this thing down to the ground. I don't care. Like, we can't do that.
Thank you for the perfect segue to my next and probably final question. We measure what matters, right? And for a for-profit business, we're tracking dollars, we're tracking productivity. As we go down the line here, what are you guys measuring that matters, that demonstrates how you're centering people over profits?
I love this question because right now the Outdoorist Oath is still a part-time organization. We started like about a year and a half ago. We launched at Outdoor Retailer actually, and it's for me, the measure of success is my team coming and saying, I want to expand my capacity in this role. I am having a good time here. I am feeling an impact in the community, and that's my measure. Like, that's my biggest measure. Of course, we measure like feedback from our workshops or educational offerings, and that's been overwhelmingly positive or constructive, which allows us to continue to improve. But really what we are after here, is especially in terms of numbers, right? Like we gotta, sometimes we feel like we have to show numbers for like brands to get behind it. Like, oh, you have this many followers, or you have these many people attending a workshop. And you know, we've gone from workshops that have 800 people to workshops that have 60 people. And honestly, it is the same quality of workshop. And sometimes when you have that intimate exchange, it's even more powerful. And so there's power to all these different scenarios, and we have to give its due value to all of those.
Yeah, that was really good. I know for us, I don't like we're an outdoor retailer. Like the honest truth is that like every brand that we sell, that we partner with, I think besides even our own, you can go and get online. Like you just can. And it's being recorded. You could probably get it cheaper. Like I mean, you really can. Like, so something that I ask our people, and I call them our tribe members, and it's TRIB3. It stands for our core values of act justly, love kindly, serve humbly. That's what we want to do as people. I think when we do that as people, and then we go to our places of work, well, then that just hopefully not bleeds in, and like hopefully it soaks in, and we're doing that in our company. But like if people are coming in to buy stuff that they can go and get online and probably cheaper, it's probably not why they're really coming in. And why are they coming in? And I think it's because they want connection. I know that's why I want them to come in, because I want connection. That's why I'm in a brick and mortar business, and that's why like we focus on that, because like I know the numbers. I know I've had people smarter than me come in and again look at my balance sheet and say like, yeah, why don't you just do this online? And I'm like, because that's lonely. That's like, I'll go and do something else. Like, I desire connection with people, and I think honestly, like I firmly believe in my being that I was created creatively, so I want to be creative. And I'm not saying that people can't create creatively online. I know that there are people out there. I'm not one of those people. So like, this is how I'm able to, I feel like, make an impact. And I think if we continue to do those things for us, of act justly, love kindly, serve humbly, that's like what we gauge on, because the numbers are gonna ebb and flow. Like this week, we were down in our sales. Like we're transparent to a fault. Like I don't want to romanticize this for anybody. But I also know that like work has to be engaged. I'm learning that as I'm learning this balance. Like when I leave for the day, that work isn't going to keep working itself. It'll be there the next day, and I can pick it back up and engage with it. And I think for me, it's the same with money. Like, unless I don't have enough money that it just works on its own. And I think even if I did, I wouldn't be really, because I'd want to go out and connect with people. So like that's just, I thrive on that. And so that's kind of how we gauge, I think, our successes.
Okay, I'll go. You skipped that one? Okay, me too. No. I don't know. I'm really bad at math, which is probably one of the reasons why I choose people over profit. Just by default. I think one of them was, so with Vera Bradley, right? I sat down with the CEO and he was like, we vetted like, I don't know, 10 nonprofits, water charities, and we chose you. And I was like, sweet. Why? And he's like, because when we talked, you said, so tell me about yourself. That's what I asked him. He started talking, he's like, so we got this project going on, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Tell me about yourself. What do you like to do? What do you like to do for fun? He was like, oh, I like to go long walks on the beach and candlelit dinners. No, I don't know what he said, but he said something along the lines of, and the whole idea was that not trying to be strategic. Like, this was just like, I'm just like, that's what I care about. Like, and so when he saw that, he was like, I really like that. And then he saw then out of that, we saw the work that we did. He liked that too. But it was like, that for me, I guess, is a measurement of success in one regard, is that it's the relationship that stems from that. So I look at that. When he says that, I go, hey, we're on the right track. We're still doing that just kind of naturally. I guess the other side of it is that the majority of all of our staff, locally and internationally, are all still working with us. So that's another measurement of success for me that's really important. So much so that they know my kids and I know theirs. And to the point where like the first kid that ever got a filter from us, his name's Brian, and it's why the organization's called One at a Time, because I couldn't give everyone clean water, but I at least give Brian clean water. If I could focus on one, then at a time we could probably do something maybe. And so with Brian, he got clean water, and then 3 years ago, I flew back down. It was during the pandemic. I flew back down to San Salvador. I go into the community because I wanted to visit Brian. It's right when El Salvador opened the country back up during COVID, and I flew down there, and I'm standing in the village, and his mom like pops her head out of her little house, and she's like, "Hola, Sean," and I'm like, "What's happening?" And I was like, "¿Qué onda?" And she was like, "Eh." And she's like, I have COVID right now. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she's like, "But I'm also pregnant." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're pregnant? Are you okay? Is everything good?" She's like, "Yeah, everything's fine." And I'm like, I'm so happy. Boy or girl? She's like, "I'm a girl." I'm like, "What's her name?" And her name's Kelsey. And I'm like, "Kelsey? That's my wife's name." And I'm like my wife? And in Spanish, she said, "Yeah, you idiot." I was like, I don't even know how to feel right now. That is like, that to me is like, if I were to say, I don't like the term to say this, but if I were to use the term measurement of success in that way, that emotional connection, that dynamic of love that happened for her over the past 8 years of being together, like our local leaders could have given the filter to Brian, and we could have been off on our merry little way, right? Okay, see you later. No, he's still there because it matters to us. And for that to me is a huge measurement of success, of just the ethos of our organization, and just being human and helping others in that way. So there you go.
Thank you. All right, so I got one last question, and this is a question I ask on any interview I ever do ever. So this is our magic wand today. I brought a prop. I'm gonna pass it to you. With this magic wand, you can eradicate a behavior, you can impart wisdom, you can remove an ism, a phobia, you can change the world, you can do whatever. Who would benefit, and what are you doing with the magic wand?
Liberation for all peoples, so that no child, elder, or any aged person is unhoused, unfed, and insecure about their future.
Call it in. Clap that up.
I think for me will be safe, especially like us, like a woman's, feel safe in every place we going and have freedom and be yourselves with no paradigms or idiosyncrasies. Like people say, oh, you need to be in the house. No, we can do other things. We can be free. So freedom for especially women, be safety places for everybody, women and men.
That's a really good question. What would I, okay. I mean, I've thought about this a lot, not the question, but just like, what am I doing and what do I want to do? And I think especially, again, now with my boys, what I want to teach them. And I think still it's the act justly, love kindly, serve humbly. Because I don't think that, they're not limited to that, they're not limited to that to act on like just a certain kind of person. And so, I mean, if they do that with everybody they meet, I think everybody will be affected in a positive way. Honestly, I was thinking like, oh, not motivated by money, but I do believe, and I know that there are people out there that like they use their money for good. So I think this the act justly, love kindness, serve humbly.
Love always wins.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for our panelists today? All right.
I am totally on board with everything that you, oh wow, thanks, that you are saying. And I also am a person who puts people over profits. That's how I've lived my life. And it is also coming from a place of privilege to talk about, like, to talk like this. And I have costs, I have expenses. And if I have employees, I am responsible for their well-being. I have dependents, I have children, and so I'm totally on board with all, like, following our passion, and I really, that is my North Star. But I'm interested in what some of the most challenging choices and decisions that you've had to make, because we have to, like, it's like your store, you have a family that you're supporting, right? Like the store needs to support you and your family. And so how do you, like, where's the tipping point?
Man, that's, yeah. Have you talked to my wife? That's, yeah, that, I mean, I'm gonna preface it with, I don't have a right answer. And I'm also gonna preface it with, I know that I've made the wrong decision in the past. Sometimes, for us, it has looked like, for us in the past, like, do we pay ourselves? Like, that's a sucky answer. But we kind of knew what we were getting into. And I'm not gonna not pay other people, because I've also been in that situation. And I know that, like, in the end, my wife and I, Heather and I, know that, like, one day the shop's not gonna be there. So it's not about the shop. And we know that, like, our people will, or other people will. So, like, there's not necessarily, like, going down with the ship. Honestly, if it got tough, we'd sell the shop. I mean, it's just it's a thing. It's a thing, and now we have there are other black-owned shops. So I've kind of done what I've wanted to do here. I mean, I really have. I'd like to stay a little bit longer, but this is, yeah, that's a very, thank you for that. And I think, oh, this is not good. I've sometimes in the past had to reach out and talk to brands and be like, hey, it's tough right now, and, like, I cannot pay my full invoice or whatever, or kind of payment plan or whatever I need to do because, like, again, I'm not gonna not pay my people. And I'm also honest with them of, like, and I'm also I haven't paid myself. So again, like, you're my next person. Like, I will do all that we have to do before I'm not paying people. Like, we've sold fixtures and stuff in the shop to pay people. Again, I just want to be transparent with y'all. That is real. That has really happened. Again, wrong answer. I'm not, like, my wife and I have not gone on an anniversary trip because we had to go in and do inventory because we couldn't afford to go and pay our people to do inventory. So, and that's not unique to us. Again, I think we've all, I think sacrifice, I guess that's the answer. And I think it's what you're willing to sacrifice. And that's why I can't say, like, oh, that's a right or wrong answer, because it is what you're willing to sacrifice. But we also know that, like, at the end of the day, we could shut this down because we know eventually we will not be here, whether we pass it on, whatever. So I hope that helps. At least know that, like, you're not struggling or suffering alone. So.
Well, and I think not to answer your question, but to offer you questions that I ask myself when I'm in a similar situation. So I run a nonprofit. I've paid myself, like, in 2021, I paid myself. I don't make money doing this, and I also don't have money. I'm not independently wealthy, but the money always shows up, whether that's donations at the right time, a brand partnership at the right time. Like, the question that I ask myself when an opportunity comes knocking, my husband and I, we ask ourselves two questions, regardless of whether or not it's offering money, is one, does this feel good? Because if it doesn't feel good, why are we doing it? Life is so short. If we're not enjoying the time we're spending, what are we doing? And number two, is this gonna make the world a better place for everybody or just us? Because if it's for everybody, then hell yeah, I'll do it. And I don't care if I get paid or not, because it's gonna make the world a better place. And on the backside of that, there is always dollars, always. It might not be immediate. It might be 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, but the relationships that we're building and the conversations that we're having in these kinds of spaces are what leads to those moments where you can call a brand and say, I'm coming up short on this invoice. Hey, what are the options? When we're human and we lead with our humanity, there's a lot more grace given rather than, like, oops, sorry, not enough profit to spread around this time. Like, when we can lead with our vulnerability, I feel like that's a way more human way to do business, which, going back to what Sean is saying, what all of us have said at one point in time or another, is the relationships and the love that we put out there. So if we know in our beingness that what we're doing, A, feels good, we're gonna do it better. And if we know that it's gonna make the world a better place, then let's go do it. I mean, I think this conversation should be, why do we have profits at all? But for the sake of talking, we're talking about people over profits. Any other questions? Yes.
First of all, I love this panel and this conversation, but I'm just curious, from your perspective, what would you wish that like consumers, brands, just people in general could do or should be doing to support a people first, profit second organization structure to help bring more companies like this to the spotlight?
I mean, I like to imagine that a world where profit is equitably distributed is possible, so that profit is not a necessity, right? Because it is the endless growth of profit that's causing the death of this planet. We had the panel before us, Jahmicah was part of it. You know, they're talking about the drilling in the Arctic. There's not that many people there, but there are people there, have been there for time immemorial. And it is this endless need for profit that is killing their environment, that's gonna kill our environment. This is our house. Nobody enters their house trying to destroy it every day, right? But apparently we do. We're just not seeing it firsthand.
Something that I didn't say on the last panel was a question I asked the main hunter, Charlie. And they were telling us about the issues with the porcupine caribou. And this, I just asked this out of ignorance. And I said, well, we're talking about like the birthplace of where the porcupine caribou are. And they're like, that's the site for drilling. And so I said, well, what are you gonna do? And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, you just said it would probably take an act of Congress for that land not to come up for drilling. And we kind of know how our Congress is, like the history of that. So like, you know, I'm not betting on that. So I said, what are the caribou gonna do? And like, what are y'all gonna do? And he said, I said like, where are the caribou gonna go next? And he said, well, I don't know. They've always been there. And we've always been here because they've always been there. And without saying it, what he said was like, we're gonna be here until the caribou leave. And they're not leaving. So we're gonna be here until the caribou leave. And that was heartbreaking. And you're right, like, I don't think we need oil that much to talk about eradicating a people again and again and again. But I don't want to be dark and gloomy, but like when you look at our track record, you know. So, but also we are now having more honest conversations about this stuff, and we are seeing that like I think the power that we have with our voice and with our vote. So because that's starting to happen more, and I think we're starting to have these honest conversations, and the fact that we are seeing examples of companies putting people over profit and it becoming profitable, that this just begets more. So.
I think I got one other thing. I think if we could change the way we see people as human beings, not human doings, right? Not a cog in a wheel to get the thing done so that you meet your quota or whatever that is, which I think has been something that we often may feel that we're just a number in the institution or the machine. So if changing the way we see helps, and I think one way to change the way we see is to really just have an honest desire to get to know the person next to you, right? So if that could be led, if there's a hierarchical structure in that business, and that could be led from the top down, so to speak, starting there, having that CEO, executive, president, whatever, just being able to change the way they see it and see the people and get to know them, I bet there might be something changing there here that could hopefully make their business or whatever start going down a different path versus caring for people over profit, if that helps.
Thank you, Sean, and everybody. Oh.
I'm just going to be very short, but to change the mentally a little, I think is to share. like share experience, share knowledge. This is what you need. Probably people not trust the non-profits or the organizations doing something for the people. Invite them and show what we're doing, and they can change the perspective, how see the things. So always share the experience. It changes a lot in how think the people, because they can live the experience. People not trust if they not see. And this is something I learned from Mexico. If we not see, we not trust. So invite these people to live this kind of experience. It's why I believe in thru-hiking, because for me, changed my life, and I want more people they can live this experience and change in different perspectives now.
Thank you for being here. And I think Jose Gonzalez, who is the founder of Latino Outdoors and a board member of the Outdoorist Oath, I think this is a beautiful note to end on, to kind of bring it back down to nature and why we're all here, because we all work in the outdoor industry. He says to build constellations, not stars. So I think when we think about profits and these organizations that are making so much money, and this is what we're striving for and this is what we're modeling after, if we instead think about the network of stars that makes that picture, and the network of businesses that can support each other, and how we can all share knowledge and find the love and bring these relationships, I think if we start focusing on that rather than being the star of our industry and working all together, I think that's a really good place to start. So thank you guys so much for being here. Happy hour starts right now, so if you have other questions for our panelists, we'll be around, so feel free to ask. Thanks for being here.